Hi everyone, welcome back in another project where we're going to be creating an awesome full stack to-do list and we're going to use also or we're going to be adding the authentication process of this application. So we're going to use Lucia Auth for authentication and also we're going to use the ORM and Drizzle to be able the Drizzle ORM and the postgreSQL to be able to add the tasks into the database and also to manage all the accounts and add them into the database. And also we're going to use React, TypeScript, NextJs, React Hook Form, and Zod for schema to be able to manage all the forms that we're going to be creating inside the application. And finally, we're going to use Shadcn. So here we're having this simple login page, and also we're having the sign up page to be able to add a new uh, user. So let's say, for example, if I want to add a new user and this user is already existing into the database, and I'm gonna type in the right password and click on create account. As you can see, the email already registered, that is coming from the server. But if I add this a new user, and as you can see we're having this error, and that's because we are going to use React Hook Form library under the hood to be able to manage all of the validation for us in a very simple and fashioned way. So here if I add a new user like this and type in the new user and create an account. So as you can see, I'm going to be headed to the application. So that's the application, meaning that the authentication is successful. So now I'm going to log out and I'm going to log in with another account where I created all the tasks just to show you the functionalities that you are going to be adding into the application. And notice that the sign-in has been successful. And here all the tasks that I added for this user. So we're having some stats in here, and also, as I showed you, we're having this drop down and we can be able to select from the dark mode to the light mode. And so I'm going to set it that way. So here we can be able to interact with the tasks here. So we can be able to um, check or uncheck. So if you notice that when we check the task, we're having this loading spinner. That's because we are waiting the response from the server. So we're going to handle all of these things, and also we can be able to change the priority just from here. So when I change this, I'm going to have this toast notification, and also we can be able to edit the task when we click on here, or we're having this drop down to be able to copy um, this task. So when I click on copy, so as you can see, the task has been copied successfully. So now let's go to the new task, and we're going to have this awesome form to be able to add the new task. Again, we're going to use Salt and React Hook form to be able to validate the form before it is submitted. So when I click, for example, on the save task, so we're going to have this error automatically in here. And so let's add the new task and let's choose the priority and hit save. So as you can see, the task has been added successfully. And if I want, for example, to add the new task, so I'm going to have the error, the task already exists, so I can't be able to add a new task. And finally, we can be able to delete the task if we want to. So uh, if we click on the delete, we're going to have first this dialog and click on delete. And notice right now we're having the task has been deleted successfully, and everything is stored into the database. So if I reload the page, so all the information that are having now are persistent, meaning that we are using the database to be able to interact with our front end. And finally, we can be able to delete all the tasks. So when I click on the clear all and click on delete, so all the tasks has been deleted successfully. And if we go to another account, so let's access to this account, for example. So what we will see that the other tasks for this account are going to be intact. So meaning that our application is working well and all the edge cases are are running successfully, so we're not having any problems. So it's a good starting point for anyone who wants to amp up his skills and learn all of those things like interacting with the database and creating APIs and also knowing how the authentication process works. And if you can be able to master and learn all of these things and all of the features by building this to-do list, even if it seems simple, you can be able to build any complex application later on. So if you are very interested about building this project, stick with me till the end of this video. Hi everyone, welcome back in Visual Studio Code. And as you can see, I already created the Next.js project along with Shadcn because we're going to use it for the design of our little application. So the first thing that we should do, the first thing is go to the Next.js website, and after installing the Node.js, uh, next copy this command and go back to your terminal and paste it over here. So sorry, paste it in your terminal in this spot. So after that, hitting enter, so you will have this bunch of questions. So I just set up with the default options, meaning that I'm using Typescript, the is linked, the Tailwind CSS. For the source directory, I'm not using it, I'm using the app directory. And for the remaining questions, I just choose the default questions or the default options. So after installing all the dependencies and installing the project or Next.js, the next thing that you should do, go to the Shadcn UI, and after installing the project, copy this and select npm since we're using npm, and again paste it in here. So so I'm not going to do this. Uh, so So I accidentally hit enter. As you can see, it's telling me that the file already exists because I already installed Shadcn. So what you will have these questions again, and you can choose whatever you want. And after that, you will be able to add the components like this. So we're gonna do this later on as we move on building this project. And here I'm just returning in our GSX. This is a home page. So first you will have uh, a GSX from Next.js. So make sure to delete all the GSX, and I just added the div. This is a home page just to see that everything is working. And if uh, here the next thing that you should do to be able to run this, type in npm run div. So as you can see, the application is already running. So I'm gonna close it and I'm gonna run it again, npm run div. And so after that, all you have to do is just reload the page in the localhost 30,000, and as you can see we are having this is a home page in our main page. So after setting up our project, the next thing that I added is the sign in component. So as you can see, I'm adding the sign in page in the main root of our application. So we're having the logo, and so it's a very simple logo and the name of the application and this login component from Shadcn. So I'm going to show you how to be able to set that up very easily. The first thing that we are going to do, so we are going to install all of these packages. So we're going to install the React icon. So we're going to use it to be able to use all the icons inside this application. And if we go back to our page, as you can see, we're using this icon, which is from React icons. And also make sure to add these components from Shadcn. So we're going to add the label, the button, and the card. So, and the first thing that I'm going to show you just to be able to create a login page very quickly. So if you are first using Shadcn, so the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to go to the blocks, and here they are providing some cool designs so you can be able to use them right away. And if we go all the way down, we are going to find this component. So this is the component that I used. All you have to do is just copy the code and paste it where you want. So if we go back to our code here, as you can see, I created this app components folder and inside of it the sign in folder. And I created this sign in page where I paste the code and I did minor modifications. And so I called this component inside the page.tsx, which is inside the home functional component, which is the root uh, route of our application. And also I added these utility classes just to make sure that this sign in is component is centered. And also I want to show you another thing that I added, which is the font. So if we go back to our page, as you can see, the font is very different than the font that is provided by Shadcn. So it is called Poppins. So I'm going to show you how to set that up. So if we go to the layout.tsx, we are going to add this Poppins object from this package, and then we are going to create this Poppins variable with this Poppins object that we created, and inside of it we're going to add all of these properties. After that, we're going to add the Poppins that variable inside the class name of the body tag. After that, we're going to go to the global.css, and then we're going to add this class, Poppins class, so we can be able to use them or to use this Poppins inside the GSX as a utility class. After that, we're going to go to the page.tsx, and as you can see, I'm adding the Poppins, so because I'm going to use it inside the whole application, so that's why I added right in here. After that, I'm going to show you the signin.tsx. So the signin.tsx, as I showed you, so this component is coming from Shadcn. So what I added is this app logo functional component, which is this one. So here we're having this div, and those are the utility classes to be able to center these two elements. So we're having the icon, and the icon is inside another div. And also make sure for the colors, make sure to use the primary, um, this primary after the hyphen um, because what I'm going to show you, like if we want, for example, to change the theme color, so we're not going to have any problem. So here I'm using the background primary color, which is green, and also I'm doing the same thing for the text primary. So here I'm calling this app logo functional component inside here at the top of the card. And here, so these are the default settings provided by Shadcn, and I added this py just to be able to add a little bit of padding at the top and at the bottom. So this is basically how we can be able to do this. And also another thing that if you want to customize the colors, for example, all you have to do is go to the themes, and here click on the customization and select the options that you want, the color, the radius, and the mode. And after that, after selecting the colors, so I'm going to show you. So let's change the color, for example, and we are going to click on the copy code and copy all of this. And what we're going to do, we're going to go back to the global.css, and so go to this part and delete this and paste this code and save your file. And if we go to our application, as you can see now, the color has been changed. So all for using the colors inside your GSX, make sure to use the primary just to make sure that when you want to change the theme, so you're not going to have any problems with the colors and you don't have to do this manually. So I hope that I covered everything when it comes to the sign-in page and all the setup needed to make this working. And the next thing that I added inside the sign-in page is this part asking the user if he already have an account, he can be able to click on the sign up. So when we click on the sign up, I added also this sign up component, but this time we're going to be going to the sign up route. So, and here also we can be able to, if we already have an account, the user can be able to go to the sign in page to be able to log in. So I'm going to show you how to be able to create this. So it's very simple. So before I start showing you that, the first thing that I did, so I took the component that we're using to be able to show the logo in this another file. Since we're going to use it twice, so that's why I did so. And of course, into the signin .tsx, make sure to import the app logo like this. So we're going to import it from this file so you can be able to use it. And also in the sign-in component at the bottom, I added um, I added this part. So I added I added this whole div. So inside of it, we're having this span. And also we are creating this label tag with the text primary so you can be able to get the primary color that we're using for our theme. And we're having the link provided by NextJs so you can be able to go to the sign up route. So after that, what I did, and just something to be able to save some time. So I created first the here the sign up route. So inside the sign up route, I created the page.tsx, and here the first thing that I did, I created this div to be able to center and the on the screen this sign up component. And here we are calling this sign up from this path and from this component. So let's go to the sign up component. And here what I did, I just took the code from the sign in page or sign in component and I pasted it in here. The only thing that I added is this part for the name. So I added this, so I just copied one of these inputs or divs in here and I pasted it at the top and I just changed the ID and the type as text of the input and I added this placeholder. So of course this is going to be required. And here I just changed the text because it is a sign up component or a sign up page. And inside the link tag in the href where when the user clicks on the sign in, it's gonna go back to the main route. And here I'm just changing the name of the button. So this is pretty basic and this is how I've been able to create the sign in, the sign up page, and also to do the modification inside the sign in or the sign in page. So after creating our sign in and the sign up page, the next thing that we're gonna do, we're gonna prepare everything to be able to set the validation for our sign in and sign up pages. So here, as you can see, we added these error icons, and when I hover over each one, as you can see, I'm going to be able to see the error message. And the same thing if we do for the password input. And also if we go to the sign up page, so we're going to have the same thing. And also another thing that I did, I got rid from the name, and also I added the confirm password. So the reason why I got rid from the name, the sign up page, it's going to be a little bit longer. So I thought just to stick with 3 inputs. So that's the thing that I did, but I need to show you how to be able to do this. So let's go back to the VS Code, and I'm going to show you step by step what I did. And the first thing that I'm going to start is by creating this error icon in here. And we're using Shadcn to be able to create this hovering notification or message like this. And the first thing that we should do, we should go to the Shadcn, and we're going to use this hover card component. So make sure to copy this and go back to your terminal and paste it in here. So after hitting enter, what's going to happen is that a new functional component is going to be created inside this folder. It's called hovercard.tsx. So after doing this, here what I did, I just copied this simple example and I pasted it in here, and I added some of the things just to make sure that it's going to look good for our sign in or sign up page. So here I added this whole div. So I added the utility classes just to be able to organize everything inside. So here, as you can see, I created another div. So this div, it's going to be absolute. The reason why we added the absolute here, uh, because if we go back to the input, email input, because we are using this component in here, um, this is need to be a little bit kind of free to place. And to make it like just inside the input, that's why I added this relative in here. So that's why I added the absolute uh, position in this div. So we're having this from Shadcn to be able to create our hovering card. So the hover card trigger, it's going to be the icon itself. So that's why I added it here from React icons, and the hovering content, it's going to be the error message. And notice that we're using the message from the prompt because this error hover card, it's going to be reusable, sorry, across all the components in the sign up and in the sign in page. So that's why the message is going to be different depending on the error that we are going to get. So that's the functional component. After, I'm going to show you some of the modifications that I did just to be able to follow the best practices of React. And as you notice here, we are creating our email input.tsx and the password input.tsx outside of the sign in and the sign up folders. And the reason why I did so, because I'm gonna reuse this across the 2 pages, the sign in and the sign up page. So before I start talking about the modifications that I did, so I'm gonna go to the signin.tsx, and in here, as you can see, we are just using this this functional components and this one, and we are importing them from this folder. And we are doing the same thing into the sign up functional component. We are importing them from the current from this folder, and we are placing them in here. And also, we are reusing again the password input for the confirmation password. So instead of creating the input multiple times, so we're going to just create one functional component or two functional components, and we are going to be able to reuse them depending on our needs. So next, I'm going to show you like into the password input. So I added these uh, props in here. So it's we're gonna have the name and the label. So the name it's going to be linked to the ID of the input, and the label it's going to be added inside the label tag, and also um, yeah, inside the label tag. So that's for the password input. And also I need to do the same thing for the email input. So something that I didn't do. So I'm going to update my code, of course. And if we go to the signin.tsx, since we are importing the password input and it has two props, so we need to pass the name and the label. And also if we go to the signup.tsx, we're doing the same thing. Here we're passing the password, and here we are passing the, because this it's going to be able to use for password confirmation, we're going to use another name and another label. And one thing that I need to do, I need to do the same thing for the password input. So let me copy this prompt, and I'm gonna go to the email input, and I'm gonna do the same thing. So here I'm going to use the label, and here I'm going to use the name. So let me add the name. And since we added these two props, eventually we're going to have an error in the sign in and the sign up.tsx. So telling us that we need to add the prompts. So I'm gonna call this email, and the label part, I'm going to call it email like this. And I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go back to the signup.tsx, and I'm going to do the same thing. So if we go back to our sign in page, so everything is looking good, and the same thing for the input for the sign up input. So this is basically everything that I need to be able to set things up for the validation process, where we're going to be using Zod library for schema and React hook form to be able to validate all the information and see if it is equal to the schema, and also it's going to manage the errors. And next, I set up the validation for both sign in and the sign up page. So I'm going to show you how things are working. So let's say, for example, I'm going to add a password like this. And if I click on the sign in, so we're going to have this toast notification telling us that sign in successful. And here we are returning the object, which is the email and the password. And if, for example, something like if I change something, like we're having the error, so we're having this error, it's going to show up inside the input. And if I click on the sign in, so we're going to have the validation error, but also we're going to have the error message in here. And also it's going to work uh, as well for the sign up page. So if I add the sign up, so let me go back to the console, and I'm going to add some password like this, and let's add the password and click on create account. So now we're having the sign in data and also the notification. But if somehow I change something like this, and we're having the error, and if I click on the create account, so we're having the notification. So if I add something like this and we didn't confirm the password and it didn't match the password we're having up here on a click on create account, so we're having another error, password must match, and let's add the correct element like this and back. We're having back our data, so meaning that everything is working fine. So let's go back to the VS Code to be able to set all this up. So let's go back. So the first thing that we should do, we should install all of these packages, the React hook form, Zod, and the resolvers. So we're going to use the resolvers to be able to connect Zod with React hook form. So we're going to use Zod for creating the schema and React hook form to be able to manage the input state and also to be able to track them and also to manage the errors. So let's go back to the VS Code, and the first thing that I did, I created the validation schema. So this schema, as I said, we're going to use Zod. So instead of putting the schema in the sign in, the sign up page, and since the schema that we're creating are going to be used both by sign in and the sign up components, we are going to place them in one file. So here we are importing the Z object from Zod, and here we are creating our schema like this. So so I named the auth schema z.object, and this is how we are going to create our schema. So the email, of course, we are going to use the string and the email, and this is the message that we are going to put out to the user when the error happens. And this is for the password, and we just set up one constraint, which is the minimum length. So if it is uh, less than 6 characters, this is the message that it's going to pop up to the user. And here, what we're going to do, because the sign up, it's going to have another input, we are going to add another element into the schema. And to be able to do this, we're going to just use the extend method, and we're going to pass inside of it one object, which is the confirm password. And this is how, so we're using the refine method provided by Zod to be able to know if the password are matched, and we're going to pass in the message and the path, and the path is going to be the confirm password key. So this is how Zod is working, and this is how we're supposed to use Zod. So after setting up our schema, the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to start by the signin.tsx. So everything that I'm going to explain inside the signin.tsx is going to work the same for the signup.tsx. So the first thing that we're going to do, we are going to import our auth schema. So after that, we are going to infer the auth, the type that is coming from the auth schema, and we're going to place it inside the auth form data. So we're doing this just to make sure that the schema that we're having inside the validation schema is gonna match the data that we are going to pass in inside the onSubmit. So that's why we're using this. So the first thing that we're gonna do, we're gonna call the use form hook from, so the use form hook is from the React hook form. And also we are calling the importing the form provider that I'm going to explain why. So here we are using the resolver property, and inside of it we're going to place the Zod resolver, and inside the Zod resolver we are going to place the auth schema. So after that, what we're going to do, so we're gonna go straight to the GSX, and I'm going to show you something very important and something that I mentioned, which is the form provider. So the form provider, it's gonna work like the context API. So you gotta be a little bit familiar with the context API to know how this is working and why I used it. So I use this just to be able to avoid using the props to pass in the props inside the email and the password. And it's gonna come very handy if you have some fields that you are placing them in external functional components without having to use prompts. So here, make sure to put the form tag inside the form provider, and inside the form provider we are passing all the elements that are coming from the user form hook. So, and by doing so, what we're going to do, we're going to go to the email input. So inside the email input, we are going to use the use form context just to be able to consume our form provider. And inside of it, we are going to use the register and the form state. And inside the form state, we're going to use errors. So the register is used to be able to track the inputs. And for our case, we're gonna place it like this, and we're gonna use the email key. And also, what we're going to use the errors object. And first, we are going to extract the error message like this. And after that, we are going to use this error message inside the error hover card. But before, we're going to make sure that this is not undefined. And this is why we used um, this check just to make sure that if this is undefined, then we can be able to show this component error hover card. And we are going to pass in the error message. And also make sure to add the toString because this is it is a field error. So, and the other type. So we're going to make sure that this is a string, and the easy way to do so, we're going to use the toString method. And also inside the error hover card, make sure to add the undefined in here because this it could be undefined. So it's going to throw an error type if we don't do so. So after doing this, also, we need to do the same thing for the password input. We need to use the register and the form state by consuming our context. And this user form context is going to be called from imported from the React hook form. And thankfully, they've done this because it's gonna allow us, preventing us from creating our own context. And here we're going to do the same thing in here. And also make sure to add, so this is, I did also a small adjustment for the label because we're going to use the same functional component for the confirm password input. And this is why I added this placeholder, your label. So it's going to be whether password or confirm password. So after doing this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the signin.tsx, and we need to add another thing, which is the on submission. So when we are submitting our form, and this is how it goes. So inside the form tag, we're going to add the on submit. So in the on submit provided by the uh, native form element, and we're going to pass inside of it the methods. This method is provided by this use form hook, and we're going to use the handle submit, and we're going to use the on submit function, and also we're going to use the handle error toast, where so this function, it's going to be called whenever there is an error. So here, so that's the handle error toast function. So here, as you can see, we're using the toast component from the Shadcn. So to be able to show the toast, what we're going to do, we need first to install the toast. So head back over their website and go to toast. And the first thing that we should do, we should install this. So make sure to go back to their terminal and paste it in here. So I've already done this. So after doing this, what we are going to do, we're gonna go to the layout.tsx, and we need to place our toaster like this. So make sure to add the toaster object and import it from the components UI toaster. And after it, make sure to add the children inside the main. So if you don't do so, it's going to throw an error, the hydration error. So after doing this, we're gonna go back to the signin.tsx, And here we can be able to use safely the toast. And the first thing that we should do, we should import the toast from the use toast provided by the hooks use toast. So it is provided by Shadcn as well. And here we are going to use the errors. So we're going to deconstruct the methods that form state, and we're going to just use the errors. So um, if the errors dot email happens, we're going to use the toast like this, and the same for the password. And this is basically how we can be able to set that up. So as you can see, our code is a lot cleaner and everything that is organized, even though that we're having some external functional components like the email and like the password input. And the same thing, so everything that I explained, we are doing this inside the signup.tsx, so I'm not going to re-explain this. So the only difference is that I'm doing here for the instead of using the um, for the type, so we're using the sign up form data. So if we go back to the validation schema, we are going to extend our initial schema and we're going to add the confirm password, and that's why we're exporting it to be able to use it inside the sign up schema. So here, instead of using the auth schema in the sign in component, we're going to use the sign up form data. And also another thing that you should take into account is by adding this that confirm password because of the extended schema. So, and basically this is the only thing that you need to add inside the signup.tsx while keeping the same logic that we did inside the signin.tsx. So this is how we can be able to create the validation for our sign in and the sign up pages. So after completing the sign in and the sign up pages, and with their validation, the next thing that we're going to do, we are going to set up our database. And for that, we're going to use Drizzle as a ORM, and also we're going to use the Neon to be able to store our information. In fact, we're going to use postgreSQL for this. So here, as you can see, I already created a project. So I'm just in the free version, and you're allowed just to create one project, but you can be able to create many databases inside this project. So after creating your project and creating the database, so it's very simple, you will be given this string. So this string, we're going to use it to be able to connect to our database. So I'm going to show you everything step by step. So the first thing that we are going to do, so I have this file that I'm going to include in the project. And the first thing that we need to do, we need to install all of these packages. So go back to your terminal and paste them all in here and install those packages. So after that, what we're going to do, we're going to create our database and copy the URL string. So I already have done this. So after that, you need to create the .env file. So I'm not going to click on this to not show the whole string. And so it's very simple. The only thing that you need to do, copy this with this database URL and paste it inside the .env. And instead of course, make sure to replace all of this phrase with the string given to you. So after that, the next step that we're going to do, we're going to create the DB folder, and inside of it, we're going to create the drizzle.ts. So we're going to copy all of this, and if we go back, we're going to create our DB folder. Inside of it, we're going to add this whole code, and that's what does is it's going to create this connection between the application and the database. And then we're going to create our schema. So that's the schema that since we're using PostgreSQL, so we're going to use the PG table. And so that's the schema that we're using, the ID, the email, and the hash password. And since we're going to use the Lucia auth, because I've already created and I know how things are working, so it needs the hash password. And also I created the email column. And of course, the ID is going to be the primary key. So after that, what we're going to do, I think in the step number 5, we're going to add the drizzle.config.js. So inside the drizzle.config.js, make sure to add this code and also make sure to add these. And also in the schema property, make sure that the path to access to the schema is the same in your project. So the dot refers to the root of the project, the app folder, then the DB and the schema.js. So if you're using the source folder, so it's going to be a little bit different. So make sure make sure that the path of the schema is the same that in the project. So after that, what we're going to do, we're going to add these scripts. In the package.json. So here in the package.json, so I've already done this. So I'm adding this just to be able to uh, just it's something like instead of typing a lot, so it's gonna help you to really, use all of this code command very easily. So after doing this, um, so let me open this up again, and run the npm run and db push to be able uh, to execute the schema. So if we hit enter, and no changes detected because I've already done this. And also you can be able to access to your database without having to go to the Neon website, and because thanks to the Drizzle ORM, and what we're going to execute is npm run db studio like this, and hit enter, and a link. So the reason why, because of I'm already running this, so the link it's gonna be given to you to be able to access to your database. And as you can see, our user table has been created with the 3 columns, the ID and the email and the hash password. So this is how we can be able to set up our database. So it's very simple. And also after we can be able to add the schema of our to-do list. But the next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to add the Lucia for authentication to be able to authentify the user before he can be able to access to the to-dos route. So now we're having a functionable sign in and sign up pages. But before that, I want to show you into the database. So now we're not having any user has been created yet in our table. So let's try to, for example, uh, try to log in with this email. So we're going to have this error, incorrect email or password. So we need to create this user. So I'm going to add the email and the password here, and I'm going to confirm the password, and I'm going to click on the create an account button. So as you can see, we are now signed in to the to-dos route. And if we go to the Drizzle and we reload the page, so we're gonna find our user created into the table with its session. And um, let's try, for example, we want to create this user that is already created. So we're going to have an error message. When we click on the create account, we're going to have the error message coming out from the server. This email is already registered. And let's say, for example, we want to access directly to the to-do route without login, without authenticating. And what we're going to have, we're going to go back immediately to the main route where we are having our login page. So let's go back to our code. I'm going to show you how to be able to do all of this. And the first thing that I want to do, I want you to install all of these packages. So we're having the Lucia package, and also we're having the adapter since we're going to use Drizzle, and also we're having this package to be able to hash the password. So that's their package and the npm website. And finally, we are going to use just Zustand to be able to for state management, and also make sure to add this code inside the uh, next.config. So make sure to add it inside the next config object. So that's the initial setup. So after that, what we're going to do, we're gonna create a new file called auth.ts. And so this code is, so I took it from their doc and I added some of the things just to make sure that it's going to fit our need. So we are importing some elements here were importing Lucia, Drizzle, postgreSQL adapter, the DB, the user table, the session table, the types session and user from Lucia, and the cookies and cache. And also another thing that I didn't mention, make sure to add this session table and the schema and push it into the database. And first you need to generate the SQL files. Then after doing so, you're gonna push this schema into the database so you can be able to create this table into your database. So after doing this and after adding this code and the auth.ts, what we're gonna do, we are going to create some routes here. So those are the actions that we're going to use to be able to log out, to sign in, sign up, and validate the user. So we're going to go through them one by one. So in the logout, so we need to create the logout folder and inside of it the route.ts, and this is the code to be able to log out. And notice here we are calling the logout function. So this logout function, make sure to add it inside the logout.ts to be able to manage the session cookie, and also to validate the user if the user has been um, logging out or not. So that's the first thing. Next, what we're going to do, we're going to create another folder and it's the sign-in route, and this whole code it's going to handle the sign-in process. So here it's going to be a post method, and we are going to use the body, and we're going to wait for the email and the password from the client, and we're going to verify the email, the password, and also we're going to verify if the user exists into the database by using this from the DB that we created. And so if the user doesn't exist, we're going to return this error. And after that, we're going to validate the password by using the verify method that is provided by the package, the Argon2 package. And then if the valid password is not right, we're going to throw this error. So if everything goes well, we are going to create a session and a session cookie, and we're going to return the success as true to the client. And here we're having the sign up. So also there's a little bit of code in here. We're going to accept the email and the password from the client. We're going to verify the email, the password. We're going to hash the password, And also we're gonna, if everything goes well, we're gonna generate a new ID and we're gonna insert the user into the database. Then we're gonna generate and create session and session cookie through Lucia package. Then we're going to return the success as true to the client. And finally, we're having one last route to be able to validate the user. And this is what we are going to return. We're going to return if the user is null, we're going to return to the client is authenticated as false. Otherwise, we're going to return this property, and also we're going to return the whole user to the client. Otherwise, we're going to catch the error and we're going to return it that way. So after creating all of these routes, I'm going to show you how to be able to use them into the client side. So the problem here that I found in Lucia, the reason why I did so, and they're not mentioning this that way, is they're using some server components, and it gets messy to use server components inside client components. I don't have much of freedom. So that's why I decided to put all of these elements in the server side just to be able to separate them from the client side. So after that, I'm going to show you how to be able to use these actions from the server side into the client component. So we're going to start by the signin.tsx. So here, as you can see, we are going to use inside the onSubmit function the try and catch block. So we're going to do some modifications because since we're going to use the fetch method. So here, and also I'm using the isLoadIn state to be able um, to show to the user when we are hitting the API, the load-in text is going to appear into the button. So here, what we're going to do, we're going to set it as true, and then we're going to call the API this route, and then we are going to pass inside of this body the email and the password, as I showed you into the sign-in route, and we're going to wait for the result. So if everything goes well, so we're gonna use the toast letting the user know that the sign-in has been successful, and then we're going to use the router that push to be able to go to the to-dos route. Otherwise, we're going to return this toad with this the variant is going to be destructive to be able to use the red color. And also, if something goes wrong, we're going to return the same toast type. And finally, we're going to set the user the is loading as false. And also, I modified the way how to be able to handle the errors. So instead of using each one of the error fields, so I just use them as a for each loop, and we're going to return the message accordingly. So that's the signin.tsx and the signup.tsx. So it's going to be pretty much the same thing. We're going to use the try and catch block, the fetch method, and we're going to wait for the result. And based on the response that we're getting, we're going to use the toast, and if the everything goes well, we're gonna go to the to-dos route. Otherwise, we're gonna return all of these errors like this. And finally, we're going to set the isLoadIn as false. And also another thing that I want to show you is to be able to validate the user so you can be able to show it into the to-dos page. And to be able to do this, we're gonna hit this validate user API. So, and also we're gonna wait for the response of if the is authenticated is true. So if we go back to the validate user route, as you can see, we are returning two things. The is authenticated and the user object. So if the is authenticated is true, so I'm just logging out just to see if everything goes well, then we are going to update our user state with the data that user. So this is coming from the user store because we are using Zustand as a state management. Otherwise, we're going to redirect to the login, which is the root uh, file. And finally, we're going to return the this error, and we're going to set the isLoading as false. And this is the remaining code. And finally, we're going to show the email of the user that has been authenticated. And another thing that I want to show you is the logout button. So this is an external functional component, and here we're going to hit the the we're going to hit the logout route. So let me go a little bit up. We're going to hit this route. But if we go to the logout button, so we are using the user store. So, and if we go to the handle logout, as you can see, I created this user store with using Zustand. So the reason why I use Zustand because it's very lightweight and there isn't much of boilerplate code if you're using a normal context API provided by React. So here we're creating our interface that we're going to use inside this use user store, and also we're going to create the type of the user. And here we're going to create a function that, and we're going to set all the default stuff in here for the objects that we created inside the interface. And so for the user, it's going to be null, the isLoading is going to be false, and the set user, it's going to accept either the user type or the null, and the isLoading, it's going to accept, of course, the isLoading as Boolean, and this is the function that we're going to use to be able to log out. So it's going to be a try and catch block with the async and we're going to set the isLoading as true like this. Since we're using Zustand, we're going to hit the logout API and we're going to wait for the response. So if the data.success is true, we are going to set the user as null. Otherwise, we're going to set, and finally, we're going to set the isLoading as false. And finally, inside the logout button, so we're going to call it this way. So we're going to put it inside this function. Since it's an async function, we're going to use the await, and then we're going to, if everything goes well, we're going to push the user to the root page. And so this is how we are going to be able uh, as you can see, it's a pretty long and tedious process. It took me quite a while to figure that out, to be honest with you, but it is working. So the next thing that I need to do, I need to put all the client code for sign in and the sign up and the validation into the user store. Next, I added these two functions inside the use user store. Uh, and so this is the handle logout function, and this is the login function. So I'm gonna go through each function step by step. So the handle logout function, we're gonna call it whenever we click on the logout button. So previously what I was doing, I was using the function right inside the logout button. So now the logout button is much cleaner because here we're going to use the logout button or the handle logout function from the user store alongside with the isLoading that we are going to use it to be able to show the loading text. So let's go back to the handle logout function, and the first thing that we're gonna do, we're gonna set this the isLoading as true. We're gonna hit this API, and we are gonna wait for the response, and the response is gonna be stored inside the data. So if the data dot success, so then we are going to set the user as null. Otherwise, we're gonna throw an error. And the next one is the login function. So the login function, we are going to use it inside the signin.tsx inside the onSubmit function. So previously we were having the try and catch block here. So now, as you can see, our functional components, it's much cleaner because the whole the heavy load is in this login function. So we're gonna do the same logic. So we're gonna use the try and catch block. We're gonna hit the sign in API. We're gonna wait for the results. And now I created the type result. So I didn't do the same problem that I did, and so the result type I added it inside um, the route.js. So it's going to be either success with the Boolean true or error. So based on all the possibilities that we're having in our code. So here we are returning error, another error as well, and also another error. And finally, we're having a success. So the type of the result, it's going to be either success or true. And the function is going to return a promise with the type next response. And inside of it, we're going to add the result type. So after that, what we are going to do to be able to use this safely, so we're going to go all the way at the top inside the login function and the user store interface. And here we are going to return a promise with um, all of these types. So it's going to have the result. So the result, it's going to have the result type that we created. It's going to have the either error with a string or the is logged in. So these are going to be optionals, and this it's going to be mandatory. So if we go a little bit at the bottom, so here after getting the result, we are gonna see if the success, because TypeScript didn't know if the result, because we are using a union, didn't know uh, if the success key is inside the result. So that's why we use this. So we're gonna see if the success key inside the result and the result that success is true, then we can be able to access safely to this block to be able to return the result and the is logged in. Otherwise, if the error is in a result, we're gonna return the error and the is logged in as false. And the same thing that we're gonna do inside the catch block, and we're gonna set the is logged in as false. And finally, if something we need to return, uh, just to make sure that this is not going to turn anything undefined, we're going to return this object with the error with the unknown error and the is logged in as false. So now once we created this, we can be able to use this inside the signin.jsx, and this is how we are going to do so. So we're going to wait for the login function to return the result object, uh, the result object along with the error and the is logged in. So if the is logged is has the type the is logged in as true, meaning that everything went well, we're gonna return this toast and we're gonna go to the route, to those route. Otherwise, we're gonna return this toast with the is logged in dot error, and this error it's gonna come from the server. So that's why if we go back to our sign in page, for example, and let's type in some random password, and I click on the sign in. As you can see, we're going to have the incorrect email or password, and this message is coming from the server. So that's why I did all of this thing just to make sure that we are getting the just to make sure our code is type safe, but also to be able to use correctly the response from the server. So that's what I used to be able to show the exact error. And finally, I added the sign up function and the our context. We're using Zustand just as a reminder. And in the sign up function, it's going to be the structure of it, it's going to be pretty much the same. So the only thing that I'm changing is the returned object. So here we're not going to return an object that has the result and the is logged properties. So we're going to just return either result or error. And also at the top, when we are defining the structure of our context, make sure to add the sign up function, and it's going to accept the data. The data is an object of email and password, and it's going to be of type it's going to be a promise, and this is the type. So the result and the error are going to be optional because we're going to return either result or an error. And also I did a modification in our route just for type safety. So inside our route, the sign up route, so here we are going to use the result type. So it's going to be, so the function is going to be a promise of type next response, and we're going to pass in the result type just for type safety. So after that, what we're going to do, we're going to go to our signup.jsx functional components in the client side. And here we are going to call the signup function from the user store and the is loading state. And here we are going to add this line, this code. We're going to accept, we're gonna wait for the returning result from the server, and we're going to pass inside the signup function the email and the password because we said that this function is going to accept an object of data which has the email and the password. And if the result that result, meaning that if it is a success, we are going to uh, show up this notification. Otherwise, if there is that error, meaning that if we're turning an error object, we're going to show this toast. And if something else happens, we're going to show this toast as well. So this is basically how we can be able to do this. And we finished the whole process of authentication. And as you might notice, it takes a lot of work to be able to create this just by yourself. So that's why a lot of people want to use third-party libraries like Clerk just to be able to save up some time, but don't have a lot of control like you do if you are using uh, an authentication like Lucia or NextAuth.js. So, but the cost of it, we're gonna have much more complexity to handle, and it's gonna take a little bit more time to be able to create all of that. So the next thing that we're gonna do, we're gonna start working on our uh, to-do list, and we're gonna design it first, and then we're gonna work on all the functionalities to make this working. So after creating our authentication workflow, now we're gonna start working on the front end of our to-do application. So I'm going to show you the elements that I created so far. So we're going to have the header with the icon and the name of the application. We're going to have the search button to be able to search for the tasks. And also if we click on this button, we're going to have uh, this contextual menu. We're showing the email that we are logged with, and also we're having the logout button. And finally, we're having the some statistics. And if I click on the logout, as you can see, I'm going to be logged out. Uh, and if so, let's try with another email. So I'm gonna sign in with another email. And as you can see, I'm gonna have the email here that I signed up with. So let's go back to the VS Code. I'm going to show you the things that I did step by step. And so we're gonna start from the to-dos. And here, as you can see, I created a new folder called components. So inside of it, we're going to have the stats component and the tasks header, along with the search button and the user profile. So if we go to the page.tsx, here we are rendering the tasks header and the stats like this inside this div. And these are the utility classes that I'm using inside um, the div, which is the parent div, referring to this whole part of our browser. So let's go to the task header, and the task header, it's going to have inside of it all of these components. We're going to have this app logo, so that's the component to render the logo and the application name, and also we're going to have the search button and the user profile inside this div, because as you can see, they're going to be uh, next to each other like this, and we're going to use the justify between, so these two elements are going to be positioned automatically like this, and this is what we're doing in the parents div of the task header component. So now let's access to the search button, and inside the search button we're using this pop over component from Shadcn. So the first thing that you need to do, you need to install this component. So it's very simple. All you have to do is to copy this and paste it into your terminal. And after that, you're going to copy all of these imports and paste this in your JSX, and you can play with depending on your needs. So just to be able to get the result that I want, so inside the pop over trigger, I'm adding the button, and inside the button I'm adding the icon from React icon, and the variant it's going to be ghost, just to make sure that we're not going to have any color, and the pop over content it's going to be actually an input. So now I'm going to go to the user profile. So the user profile, we're going to use the drop down menu from Shadcn as well. So again, go back to the Shadcn, and first you need to install this by copying and pasting this terminal command in your terminal. After that, you're going to copy all of this and paste it in your code, and also copy this and paste it in here. And also we're going to add this open state that is going to be linked to the drop down menu to be able to open and close the drop down. And here we're going to have the drop down menu trigger where we're going to be adding the button, and so the button, it's going to be this one. So that's the button, and inside of it, we're going to just place the icon of the user. So this is what we're doing. And again, we're using the variant as ghost to be able to get rid from the color. And inside of it, we're going to add this drop-down menu content. And here we're going to just add the drop-down menu label. It's going to be the email that we logged with, and we're going to get it from the user from the user store. And finally, we are going to use this drop-down menu separator, and also we're going to use this drop-down menu item. So we're going to just use one item, which is the logout button. And if we got access to the logout button, I did just minor modification to be able to style it a little bit to fit the theme of our application. And in here, we're going to use a div instead of a button. We're going to use the icon, and we're going to use a span tag. So this is basically how we can be able to create this. And finally, I'm going to show you how to be able to create all of the statistic components. And so we're going to go to the stats.jsx, and here we're going to create our array that we're going to loop through and to be able to render each one like this. So we're going to use a map function. And so inside this map function, we're going to use this div that's going to wrap the single stat card, which is this component. And also we're going to use the separator. And also we're using this just to render the separator only for the two elements. So when we reach the last element, it's not going to be rendered. And here inside the single stat card, it's going to accept the stat object, which has the label, the unit, and the counter. So this is the type that we created for this, and we're going to place each element in its proper place to be able to render these elements like this. So that's going to be the final design of our application. So after adding all of these elements, after adding this part with the button to be able to add a new task, and also, so that's going to be the design of each task. So we're going to have, of course, the checkbox, the name of the task, and also the status of the task, and also drop down to be able to select the priority if we want just from here, And also if we click on this button, we're going to have this drop down to be able to edit or copy or delete the task. And also it's going to be fully scrollable. So we're going to use a component from Shadcn for this. And at the bottom, we're going to have the number of tasks and the button to be able to clear all the tasks if we want to. So I'm going to show you all the components that I built for this. So just to not get lost. So I'm going to start from the page.jsx and also make sure to add the pop-ins just to be able to change the font because I was using the default font by Shadcn. So we're going to start by the all tasks header. So the all tasks header, so it's going to be this simple functional component where we're going to be rendering this h2 tag and the p tag to be able to show the current day. And also we're going to have the button add task. So I'm just adding this button temporarily because we're going to create a dialog to be able to open up a dialog to be able to add the form inside of it to add the new task. So I'm going to do this later on. And next, we're having the tasks area. So the tasks area to be able to make this functional, we're going to use all of these three elements from Shadcn. So we're going to use checkbox, we're going to use the badge, and the scroll bar. So for uh, each one of them, you need to install them. And we're going to go back to the Shadcn and we're going to type in checkbox and make sure to install this into your project, the component, and the same thing that we're going to do for the badge and the scroll bar. And because here we're using inside all of these single tasks, I'm just duplicating this as you noticed, just to see how things are looking into the screen. So we're using the scroll area, which is also a component provided by Shadcn, which is going to make our application looks good rather than using the default scroll bar of the browser because it looks ugly. And here we're going to have the functional components of the single card. So I'm not passing inside of it any object. So I'm going to do this when we start, working with our state management and working with the data. So we're going to have the parents div, which is going to have inside of it two divs. So this part for the checkbox, and here we're going to have another div. Inside of it, we're going to have the label, the badge, and in this div, we're going to have two elements. So we're going to have the combo box and we're going to have the task option. So these are the two elements. So as you can see, we are putting them inside one div just because we're going to use the justify between in here to be able to position them automatically like this. So this is the combo box demo component, and this is the tasks options component. So let's get into the combo box demo. So here, so it's a pretty long component, and so this I didn't write it by myself. So I went to Shadcn. So all you have to do is to go back in here and type in command. So you need to install this. Um, so make sure to install this command. And here they are showing you like the example. So this is the example that I used, but they are using this in conjunction with the uh, pop over. So basically what I did, I just took this from Shadcn and I played with it just to be able to fit my need. And here, so they are providing the frameworks area, but for me, I want to just use the low, the medium, and the high. So those are the priorities. So I changed the array, and basically this is what I did. And so this is the code to be able to create this drop down. And I'm going to go to the tasks option. And here we're going to use the drop down menu again. And this is the code that we're going to use for our drop down. So I'm not going to get into this. So you can find it into Shadcn. So all I did, I just copy and paste and I updated to be able to get what I want depending on the application. And finally, we're going to have the tasks footer. So it's very simple. So we're going to have this div. Inside of it, we're going to have the p tag and the button, the clear all. And here for the button, we're gonna use it just temporarily because we're gonna use a dialog to be able to ask the user if he really wants to delete completely all the tasks. So this is basically the design of the application. It's pretty simple and it's pretty clean. So we're gonna stick with that for the design. And the next component that I added is the dialog to be able to add the new task. So when I click on the add task, as you can see, we're going to have this awesome dialog. So we're going to have the title, the task name, and also we're going to be able to select the priority and also the status from here. So we can be able to select the priority if we want from here or from here. And so that's going to be the simple design of our form. So let's go back to the VS Code, and in the components folder, I created this dialogues folder, and inside of it, I created the task dialog. So I created two components, the task dialog and the task form. So let's go over the task dialog. So we're going to use the dialog uh, uh, component from Shadcn. So you have to install it. So to be able to use it, go back to your to Shadcn and copy this and paste it in terminal and install the package, and you can be able to use the dialog by importing all of these components. So we're going to have the dialog trigger, which is the button, the add task. And also we're going to have the dialog content, which is going to have the dialog title, the dialog description, and the task form object, which I stored in another component because it's a little bit long. And finally, we're having the dialog footer. Inside of it, we're going to have the button. And the button, we're going to have the icon, the plus icon, and the span tag, which is the new tag, which is the new task phrase. So probably also I need to do the same thing. So I'm going to do it later on, just to be able to add the icon, plus icon in here. So, and after creating this, so we're going to use this tasks dialog in the task header. So let me go back to the page.jsx, and we're gonna paste it in here in the all tasks header, which is this part. And so that's the button that's going to trigger the dialog when we click on it. And I'm going to show you the task form. So the task form, we're going to use the select component from Shadcn as well. So make sure to install this from just type in select and install this via the CLI. And so we're going to have this inside. So it's going to be inside the from form tag. So we're going to have the task name that and the task priority and the task status. So all of these, I put them into uh, external functions just to make sure that everything is clean. So the task name, we're going to have the label and the input. The task priority, we're going to use the select component from Shadcn. So we're going to have the label and the select component. So we're going to have the trigger and the select content. We're going to have the select group, and each inside this group, we're going to define the structure of our dropdown via the select item tag. So we're going to have this one, and inside of it, as you can see, we are placing the circle icon and the span tag with the low text, and the same thing for the medium and the same thing for the high. So we can be able to use a map function to be able to do this. So I'm going to do this later on. And finally, we're having the status functional component. So we're going to use the same thing or the same structure. The only thing that is going to be different are the select items, which are the in progress and the completed. And here the show error. So this is a functional component that I'm going to show the error. So it's reusable. So I can be able to reuse it in these three functional components. And this is what we're having here. So when we start working with React Form and React Form library and the Zod schema that we did, like we did for the sign up and the sign in page. So I want to, plan for everything just to make sure that when we start working with these libraries, I'm not gonna run into any issues when it comes to the design. So basically, this is how we can be able to create our form by using Shadcn, and it's very like it's very quick to really build this. And the final component that I added is this alert dialog. So when I click on clear all, so we're going to have this alert dialog asking the user if he really wants to delete all the tasks. So let's go back to VS Code again, and inside the dialogs folder, I created the clear all dialog, and inside of it, I created this clear all dialog functional component. And here we're going to use the alert dialog components from Shadcn. So all you have to do is to go back to Shadcn and type in alert dialog and install the command or the component via the CLI. Then you can be able to use the component like this. So it's a time saver to be able to create a dialog because I've been doing this for a while just manually and it took me a lot of time. So that's the power of Shadcn and the UI components. So here we're going to have the alert dialog trigger, which is a button, and we're going to have the alert dialog content, and inside of it we're going to have the header, the alert dialog header, which includes the title and the description, and we're having the footer. In the footer, it's going to be the alert dialog cancel and the alert dialog action. So basically, after for a while, we are going to update all of these components just to make sure that when we start making the tasks functionable and working with data. So for now, that's the raw code of this. And finally, what you have to do is go to the task footer and import the clear all dialog component that we added just to be able to add the trigger of the dialog down here. The final component that I added is this alert dialog. So when I click on clear all, so we're going to have this alert dialog asking the user if he really wants to delete all the tasks. So let's go back to VS Code again, and inside the dialogs folder, I created the clear all dialog, and inside of it, I created this clear all dialog functional component. And here we're going to use the alert dialog components from Shadcn. So all you have to do is to go back to Shadcn and type in alert dialog and install the command or the component via the CLI. Then you can be able to use the component like this. So it's a time saver to be able to create a dialog because I've been doing this for a while just manually and it took me a lot of time. So that's the power of Shadcn and the UI components. So here we're going to have the alert dialog trigger, which is a button, and we're going to have the alert dialog content, and inside of it we're going to have the header, the alert dialog header, which includes the title and the description, and we're having the footer. In the footer, it's going to be the alert dialog cancel and the alert dialog action. So basically, after for a while, we are going to update all of these components just to make sure that when we start making the tasks functionable and working with data. So for now, that's the raw code of this. And finally, what you have to do is go to the task footer and import the clear all dialog component that we added just to be able to add the trigger of the dialog down here. And now I added some real data. So as you can see, we're having these tasks, and so we can be able, just for now, we can be able to check them like this. And as you can see, um, the badge, it's going to be updated depending on the state of the priority, the status priority, and also we can be able to change the priority if we want to, and everything. So if we open up the console log, and so let's uncheck this, and also let's change the priority. So for this object that I'm logging out, so we're going to have the priority as high and the status in progress. So those are the things that I added. So I'm going to show you all the things that I did step by step. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to create locally the array. So first we need to define the structure of each task. So it's going to be ID, name, priority, and status. And the priority is going to be either low, medium, or high. And the same uh, for the status, it's going to be either in progress or completed. And also we're going to use the nano ID, so a package to be able to generate ID. So make sure to install it like this. So after that, we're going to create our area like this, and we are just creating some random tasks with the help of ChatGPT to give me the areas just to see that everything is working. So the next thing that I did, I created this use task store with Zustand. So here we're going to create our interface. So it's going to be, for now, it's going to be tasks, set tasks, fetch tasks, and the update task function. So the task, we're going to be able to store the tasks, and the set tasks to be able to update these tasks. And as you can see, we are passing inside of it the tasks with the type of task as an array. And the fetch task is going to be a simple function to be able to fetch the tasks, and the update task function where we're going to be passing a task that we want to be able to update it, to be able to update the tasks array. And so after creating our context with Zustand, of course, we need to pass in the interface. And here we're going to use the set and the get. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to set um, the default value of the tasks. Then the set task is going to be like this. It's very simple. So we're going to pass inside of it the actual tasks, and then we're going to update the task state by passing this tasks prompt inside the tasks to be able to make this state changing. Next, we're going to have the fetch task method. So here I'm just simulating the fetching of the data by using a promise and a set timeout. And finally, we're going to update the tasks like this. And for the update task function, it's going to accept the task that we want to update, that we are going to use inside the function whenever we want to update the state of the task, whether we want to check it or update the priority or the status. So we're going to call this function, and we're going to update we're going to pass inside of it the task, and then we're going to get the current tasks. So that's why we're using get here. And then we're going to update our tasks like this. So after creating all of these functions inside Zustand, uh, then we can be able to call them wherever we want in our application. So after that, what we're going to do, we're going to go to the page.tsx, and then we're going to go to the tasks area. So here we're going to call two things from the use tasks store. We're going to call the tasks, and so that's obvious because we want to use this area to be able to show it like this in our application by using the map function, and the fetch task to be able to fetch all the data or populate all the tasks so we can be able to work with it and then show it and render it in our application. So here, instead of using as I did, so just of purpose of seeing how things are looking in the application. So here we're going to use the tasks area and we're going to use the map function and we're going to iterate through each single task. And then we're going to call the single task functional component. We're going to pass inside of it the single task. And here we're going to spread the single task inside all of this functional component. So the first thing that we're going to start with is the checkbox. So the checked property we're going to use, it's going to be dependent if the single task.status is equal to completed, meaning that it's going to return true, and so it's going to be checked. And also we're going to use the onCheck checked change, which where we're going to be calling this function. So I'm going to get into it. Then we are using the single task.name, the single task.status in here, and the badge. Then we are passing the single task inside the combo box. So I'm going to explain that as well. So let's talk about the update checkbox change. So whenever we click on the checkbox, this it's going to be triggered. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to create a new object which is going to have the single task. So that's why we're using the three dots to not lose all the information, the other information except the status from the single task object. And then we're going to work only with the status property. So if the status is equal to completed, automatically it's going to be progress and vice versa. So whenever we check on the task, and then we're going to call the update task function. So that's why we're using it from the use task store. So here we're going to pass in this updated task object, and then so I'm going to go back to the use task store. So once we accept this as the task prop, then we're going to update all tasks like this, and we're going to re-render the tasks state by using the set. So this is how things are working. So let's go back to the tasks area, and then and also I'm changing the opacity of the task. So I'm just, instead of using it directly into the class name, just to not make things uh, complicated. Uh, and I added this. So only if the status is completed, then the opacity is going to be 65%. So we're going to use the return value inside the class name. So, and here I'm going to go to the combo box demo. And as you can see, I'm passing inside of it. So I'm passing the single task. So here, what we are going to do, the first thing we're going to use this use effect hook, and it's going to be dependent on the single task. So whenever the single task changes, so we are going to update the set value by the single task that priority. So that's the first thing. And also another small change that I did here in the onSelect. So the code that is given by Shadcn, they are using the arrow function directly inside the onSelect property. And I know that the code it's going to be a little bit extended. So what I did, I created this onSelect function, and then I linked it to the onSelect property. So here so the onSelect function is going to accept the current value as a string, and here so the reason why I added this type guard function, because I want to update the current value with the priority. So the current value, the problem that I run into, the current value is a string and the priority is a union type of low, medium, and high. So the only way to be able to fix this with Typescript to not have any errors, so I created this type guard. So what we're seeing here, we are going to create this function is valid priority that is going to accept the value as a string, and it's going to return either low or medium or high if the value, which is a string, is equal to low and value and high. And here we are going to validate that. So if it's not the case, we're going to exit the function. So if it is the case, then we can be able to use safely this current value because TypeScript knows that this it's going to be either low, medium, or high based on this type guard function. So it might seem TypeScript make things complicated, but it's going to save you a lot of time to uh, to not run into bugs later on, and it's going to be very complicated to figure that out. So it's best to really figure this out in the runtime when you are working with your code by using TypeScript. So once we did this, we're going to create the updated task, of course, and we're going to update all our states, the set value. This is for the actual combo box that we're using and the update task function that we're calling from the from our store. So as you can see here, we are calling it twice. Uh, uh, that's why I created that way. And also we are going to set the open as false to be able to close our combo box. And the next thing that I did is I updated the statistics component. So now when I check the tasks, as you can see, the completed tasks, it's going to be changing as long as with the pending and the progress. And as I'm checking all of these statistics are going to be updated accordingly. But also I updated the footer of the test to be able to show how many tests that we're having so far. So let's go back to the VS Code. Then we're going to start. So I'm going to start from the page.jsx and we're going to go to the stats functional component. And here, the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to use the tasks from the use tasks store, because this is what we're going to use to be able to do all the calculation. So we're going to create this use effect hook, and the area dependency, it's going to be tasks area. So every time the tasks area changes, all of this, it's going to be run, it's going to be a run, or it's going to be executed. So the first thing that we're going to do, we need to get the numbers of the completed tasks, and we're going to use the filter method. And then we're going to get the pending tasks. All you have to do is to the number of tasks that we're having minus the get completed tasks. Then we're going to calculate the get progress value, and we're going to divide the all tasks dot length by the get completed tasks, and we're going to multiply it by 100. And then we're going to update our set status area like this. So for each object in the counter property, we're going to pass in the uh, right variable. So we're gonna use the get completed task. We're gonna place it with the counter property. The same for the get pending tasks. But for the last object, as you can see, we're gonna use the toFixed method just to be able to get two numbers, but this is going to be string, so that's why we use the parse int to be able to convert it to a number because the counter is of type number. So this is basically how to be able to update the status component. And finally, if we go to the task footer, all we have to do is to call the tasks from the use tasks store, and then we're going to use the length property to be able to calculate how many tasks that we're having at the bottom of our application. So the next thing that I worked on is the validation of the task form. So let's say, for example, if we hit the save task, so we're going to have all of these errors. And also if I type in more than 3 characters, so the error it's going to be gone. And also when I select the priority and the completed status, so here I can be able to get this object. But somehow if I don't follow the schema that I created, eventually I'm not going to have anything because I'm having this error. And when I close the form, everything's going to be reset. And if I click on Save Task, as you can see, I'm still going to have all of these errors. And we're going to use Zod and React Form library to be able to track all of that. So the first thing that we need to do, we need to create our schema. So we're going to follow the same path that we did like for the sign in and the sign up page. So let's go to the task form dialog. And here, as you can see, we are creating our schema that's going to have the task name, the priority, and the status. Then we are going to extract the type of the task form schema by using the Zod, the object that inferred, and then we are going to use the type of. And after that, we are going to use the use form hook from React hook form, and then we're going to use the Zod resolver to be able to connect the React form with the Zod or the schema that we created. And after this, I'm going to get into this a little bit. After that, what we're going to do, we're going to add this, we're going to wrap all this code uh, inside the form provider because uh, to avoid using prompts. So we're gonna use the context, and this context is provided by the library, so you don't have to create your own context. And here we're going to pass in the methods that we are having in here, so you can be able to share it across the components that are inside this form provider. And also make sure to wrap the task form, which is the components, the task name and the task priority and the task status. So we are using them inside this functional component just to make sure that the code is going to be a lot shorter. And so and also make sure to add the button inside the form so that the submission is triggered. So once we did this setup, then I'm going to go to the task form. So the task form here, so I'm going to explain each functional component. So the task name, it's an input. So we're going to access to register and the form state that are used that we created by using the use form hook. And since this functional component is a child component of the task dialog, to be able to access to this, we're going to use the use form context. Eventually, it is using the context API under the hood that is delivered by React, but it is more adapted to the React hook library. So you don't have to create your own context for this. So it's a time saver. Then we're going to use the register inside the input with the task name. So make sure to add the same label that we used in the Zod schema. So if we go here, so uh, that's the key that we used. So make sure to add the same here to be able to track the input. So here we are going to show the error, and in the errors object, we're going to use the task name key. And here we are going to show the error by calling or using the show error component. And inside the show error component, it has two elements, the label and the errors. So the label we are going to pass in to be able to use to access to the right error. So that's why I use the label, and the errors, it's going to be the field errors uh, type, which is delivered by the library as well. So after that, we're going to go to the task priority. So here it's going to be different because we're not going to use an input. Uh, we're going to use the select tag from Shadcn. And to be able to actually trigger or track the selection, so here instead of using trigger, we're going to use these three elements: the set value, the watch, and the trigger. So the watch method we are going to use it to be able to actually watch the priority key inside the schema, inside our schema. And then we are going to actually save the results that we selected inside the selected property. And also we're going to use the selected property inside the value tag and the select tag provided by Shadcn. And here I'm going to use the onValueChange to be able to update the value whenever we change the selection. So this is what is going to be triggered. So we're going to use the set value with the priority key, and we are going to link it to the value that we selected. And here we're going to use the trigger, so to be able to actually trigger the component to be able to actually track the selection and also to track the error if something unexpected or that is not defined with the schema that we set for this for this one. So that's basically how we can be able to solve this problem. And here we're going to do the same thing to be able to show the error. So we're going to pass in inside of it the label, and also we're going to use the priority key and the errors array. I think that is an array. And also we're going to use the same thing for our task status functional component. So let's go back to the dialog. Here we are going to handle the case that when we close the actual dialog, we need to reset all the fields. To be able to do this, the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to add the open and the set open. And this open, it's going to be linked to the dialog. And here we're going to create the open, and we're going to use the open change uh, and we're going to link it to this function. So it's going to have the is open as a parameter. So we're going to set the open as is open, of course. And if the is open is false, then we're going to reset all the fields by using the method from um, from here. And finally, for the submission, to be able to submit our form, we're going to use the onSubmit value property from the form tag, and we're going to use the method that handles submit, and it's the function that we're going to pass inside of it, which is the onSubmit. And the data, it's going to have the task form value that has the structure, and I'm going to just log out the data. So this is basically how we can be able to create the validation and the submission of our form. So the next functionality that I added is to be able to add the new task. So when I click on the new task and let's type in some random names or name and click on Save Task. So as you can see, we're going to have this load-in state, and also we're going to have the notification telling us that the task has been added successfully. And here we're going to find our task that has been created. And notice that our tasks are sorted by the in progress. So for the tasks that are in progress, that's going to be always at the top. Like for example, if I check this, as you can see, it's going to be going at the bottom. So all the in progress tasks are going to stay at the top. And also I added the so I added the case where when we want to use the same a name that already has been added in the list. So if, for example, I type in the name, the task of the name that already has been added. So I'm going to have this error, this notification error, but also we're going to have the error in here. So that's also I added it, and also I did some some updates for the statistic state. So let's go back to our VS Code, and so the first thing that I'm going to start with is the function. So I created this sort tasks by completed function. So this is the function to be able to sort our tasks by in progress. And here the task is going to accept the tasks array, and it's going to return also a tasks of type task. Then I added this new add new task, which is synchronous, because we're going to use this new promise just to simulate the creation of the task into the database. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to set the isLoading state to true, and we're going to extract all the tasks by using the get method from Zustand. Then we're going to update the we're going to create a copy of the current tasks by adding a new task, and we're going to save the result inside the updated tasks. Then we're going to update the tasks state by um, using in between the sort task by completed function, so we can be able to get as a result the sorted functions. And also, since this, so that's why I added it in this function to be able to use it in the fetch tasks. As you can see, I'm using it here at the bottom, but also when we update the task. So it is used for the fetch tasks, and also it is used for the update task function. So now I'm going to show you how to be able to add the new task. So we're gonna head over the task dialog, and in here, as you can see, we are going to call the add new task. And so in the onSubmit function, so I update it to be able to first handle the case if the name that we want to create the task with is already existing. So we're going to use the find method, and we're going to rely on the name of the task inside the tasks array, and we're going to see with the data.task name. Then if the find task is not undefined, meaning that we found something, we're going to generate an error by using the set error uh, from React hook to be able to create this error. And then we're going to show this toast message, and we're going to set the focus to the task name input, and we're going to use the return to be able to exit the function so that these elements are not going to be executed. So that's the update that I did, but also as you can see, adding the isTask dialog opened from Zustand as well, because I want to link these two with the dialog. So instead of using the open and the set open states within this functional component, I want to use it outside of this and use it in all the application because I want to use it in the dialog. So I'm going to show you why. So here I'm just modifying the is open and the set is open with the this variable and also with this variable. So now, and of course we need to, I created them in our context. So I created them like this inside the interface, but also I added the default values like this. Then we're gonna go to the task dialog. So inside, sorry, we're going to go to the task form and we're going to go to the task status. So as I showed you, when we open up the task form, the in progress, it's going to be set for us. And the reason for that, because I updated this, and this is why I'm creating the is task dialog opened in Zustand in the context that we are creating in Zustand. So we're going to so we can be able to set the value to in progress, and we're going to trigger the status keyword in the React form hook, and this is going to be dependent on this. And the selected status, so we're going to use the watch status, and if this is empty, because the first time we open up the dialog, this it's going to be empty. So that's why we're using the in progress. So the error is not gonna happen when the dialog is opened up. So that's basically what I did to be able to do all of these modifications. And finally, inside the stats, so here, the reason why I wasn't, or the numbers was not being updated because I was using the all tasks inside the tasks array from the context that we created in Zustand. So I'll make sure to add the tasks here and also the tasks here as well. Yeah, so that's the only thing that I fixed to be able to get the updates in our statistic components. So this is how we can be able to add the new task. So the left element that I need to do is to be able to edit the actual task when we want to. And the next thing that I added is the ability to be able to update the task if we want to. So when I click on the edit button, so as you can see, we're going to have the information of the task that we want to update. And notice here we're having the edit task instead of add task. And here we're having the information, the task name, the priority, and the status of the task. If we click on another task, for example, so we're going to have different information because we are choosing to edit another task. So let's now change some of the informations here. And also I'm going to change the status and hit save. So after that, as you can see, the task has been updated successfully. And the task that we changed is down here because it is now set as completed. And also notice here that the uh, the priority is medium. And also we can be able to change the um, actual priority just from here. So if I click on high, as you can see, we're going to have this loading state, and as well, we're going to have the notification telling us that everything went well. So, and also if we want to create a new task, as you can see, everything's going to be set to its default state. So let's go back to the VS Code to show you all the process that I did to be able to make this work. So the first thing that I did, I created these two states, the task selected and set task selected. So we need a state where we're going to be storing the task that we need to update when we click on the edit. So that's the first step. And inside the use task store, we need to set the default values of these states. So it's going to be null. And of course, this is going to be a function that will accept the task of type task or null. And we're going to just update the task selected with the task that we passed in the function as a property or as a prompt. And also another thing that I want to show you, another update that I did for the update task function, just to be able to simulate hitting the API and sending the request to the server. We're going to use the promise, and basically all of this code is going to remain the same, and we're going to return an object of success and message. So if of course it is just we are just simulating this. We're going to return in all cases, we're going to return the success as true. Otherwise, we're going to return the false. And also I added the is loading state at the top and also at the bottom when this finishes. So this is the update that I did inside the use task store. And next, what we're going to do, we're going to go to the task area. So the tasks option functional component is this drop down. So we need to know which the task that we want to edit. So what we're going to do, we're going to pass inside the task option the single task. So inside here, of course, we need to add it as a prompt, and we're going to add the task selected from the use task store from our context. And then when we click on the edit, we're going to update the task selected with the single task. Then we're going to open up the is task dialog opened or the dialog with using the set is task dialog open. So since the is task dialog open is linked to the dialog, so let me go back to the actual task dialog. So when it is set to true, so if I go down into the JSX, so once it is going to be true, and since it is linked to the open property of the dialog, it's going to be opened up. So after that, we are going to use this use effect hook just to be able to get the information into the dialog. And we're going to use this if statement. So if the is task dialog opened, meaning that if it is true, and we're going to check if this task selected is not null. So if it is not null, meaning that we are going to edit the task, and then we are going to populate all the input and the select tags in our form like this by using the set value from the methods that is coming from the use form hook that is coming from the library React form library. And here notice that we're using the trigger just when we update the value of the priority select. So we need to use the trigger so we can be able to trigger that manually so it can the use form hook can be able to track the selection or the update of the selection. So because we are using the select tag from Shadcn, so it's not a native HTML tag, so we need to do this. Otherwise, if the set tag selected is not null, we are going to reset all of the inputs by using the reset method. And here at the top on the submit function, so here I added this if statement. So it's going to handle whether we're going to add a new task or not. So we're going to rely on the task selected. So if the task selected is null, meaning that we're going to add the task, and we're going to use this code that I already explained to be able to add a new task. Otherwise, we're going to go to this block, and the first thing that we need to do, we're going to create a new object called updated task to be able to store inside of it all the updates that we did when we modified the name, the status, or the priority. And we're going to use the task selected with the three dots to not lose the remaining properties. For now, we're having the ID, and also after we start working with the database, I need to use the user ID. So for now, this is the object that we're going to create, and we're going to use the update task function. And since we set it as an async because we're using a promise inside of it, we're going to wait for the result. So if the result is success, we're gonna show the toast for success return. Otherwise, we're gonna show for the error return. And also make sure to set the task selected as null. So when we open up or we want to create a new task, we're not gonna find all the previous information when we updated the task. And of course, we're gonna use this to be able to close the actual task. And also another thing that I want to show you, an update that I wanted to show you in the task form .tsx and mainly inside the task status. So I had this use effect hook here, so make sure to delete all of this and just keep this code to make sure that everything works well. So after doing that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the task options, or I'm going to go to the priority combo box. So here, because I've been using the update task function, previously it wasn't async function, so I need to add the await here that we are going to store the result, the object that is returning the success and the error, and make sure to add the async function. And also at the top, make sure to add the is loading. And just to be able to show the is loading phrase or text when we update, as you can see, we update or we click on the actual priority that we want to update. So yes, we are in the priority combo box, and here we are going to return the result based on the whether it's success or not. And this is the important part inside the priorities.map. So to be able to show the is loading into the actual element that we clicked on, so we're going to add this. So I'm going to explain it. So here, if the value, because whenever we update the element that we selected, it's going to be stored inside the value state. So we're going to check if the value is equal to the framework that value. So we're doing this just to make sure that when we click on this, not all the elements inside the list are going to be are going to have the loading three dots. And also we're going to check if the is loading is true. So if all of these elements are checked, then we're going to show the loading with the three dots. Otherwise, we're gonna show the framework that label. And also, I did this uh, when we are hitting the API, I wanna just hide the check icon. So this is basically all of the things that I did to be able to create the update of our task, and everything seems working well. So I'm going to keep working on the other functionalities like copy and delete. Also, make sure inside the task form, and that's a mistake that I did, make sure to keep this use effect hook inside the task priority, and also make sure to add the task selected. So only we are going to set the value and the trigger. We're going to use the trigger when the task selected is when the is task dialog opened is true and the task selected is null. So the problem that I run into is when I want to add a new task, it always said to me in here when I click on the save task that the status or the priority has not been selected because they were still empty. So also make sure to add this inside this functional component to be able to handle this case and not run into any errors. So next we can be able to copy the task. So when I click on copy, so we're going to have this toast telling us that the task has been copied. And if we go at the bottom, we're going to find our task copied. So let's go back to the VS Code. And here, so we're going to go to the tasks option. So I did some of the changes. So let me delete this. So I added this action clicked state because I'm going to use it inside this use effect at the bottom. So I'm gonna explain first. So the first thing that I did here, I added this. So let me go at the bottom. So inside this drop down menu item, so make sure to add on-click event listener and call this handle item click with the copy word. And here at the top, the action that we are gonna use is copy. So if action equals copy, then we are going to set the task selected as single task, and also we are going to update the action clicked with the action that we clicked on. And the reason why I did so because I want to use this use effect hook, so I can't use the task selected right into this if statement because of how React works, and states are updated asynchronously. So I can't be able to access the new state right inside the if statement. So I need to use this use effect hook so I can be able to access to the task selected, the updated task selected. And here I'm telling that only if the task selected is not null and the action clicked is copy. Just I'm doing this just to um, prevent the problem if I click on the edit or delete. So I want to make sure that I'm precising that the action clicked must be copy. then we can be able to safely access this block. So we're going to show this toast notification, and then we're going to copy the or call the create copy task. So the create copy task is a asynchronous function. So the first thing that we're going to make sure is the task selected is not null. And then we're going to create our new task. So we're going to generate a new ID, of course, because it is a new task. Then the name, it's going to be the task selected that name, and we're going to add the copy and the status. So it's going to be based on the task selected, the same for the priority. Then we're going to reuse the add new task. And here, because this is a synchronous function, so that's why we're using a sync here and the wait. And once we get the return, it's going to be success or error. So if it is success, we're going to show the toast notification. Then we're going to do some cleanup here at the bottom. We're going to set the task selected as null, and the action clicked, it's going to be empty. So we're going to empty it. So this is basically how we can be able to copy our task. And here, the best part here, we just reused a function that we already created to be able to add the new task, which is going to save us a lot of time. And the last functionality that I added is the ability to delete the task. So here, as you can see, the delete button is now red. And if I click on the delete, so we're going to have this dialog telling us that it's going to be deleted permanently. And when I click on the delete, so we're going to have a loading state. And here um, the task has been deleted with this toast message. And also I added the ability to delete all the tasks. So when I click on the clear all, so now we're going to have another error message, and we're using the same dialog, of course. And if I click on delete, all the actual tasks are going to be deleted. And when we don't have any task yet, and as you can see, the clear all is going to be disabled, which makes sense. So let's go back to the VS Code. So the first thing that I'm going to show you is the new function that I created to be able to delete the task. So I'm going to start from the top just to show you the structure. So there is a little bit of mess inside the interface. So I shouldn't do things like this. Uh, but here for the delete task function, so it's going to have the option. So we need to use the same function whether we want to delete one task or delete all tasks. And here we're going to use this option parameter that's going to accept this union type with the delete or delete all. And the task is going to be optional. And of course, it's going to return a promise of type success and a message. So at the bottom, so it's going to be pretty much the same structure for the other, like the other tasks. Here we are adding the prompts. The loading state is going to set to true. We're simulating the delay by creating a new promise. We're going to get all the tasks. So if the option is delete, so meaning that we're going to delete one task, and also make sure to add the task here because it is optional, then we can be able to safely go to this block, and we're going to use the filter method to be able to just like filter the task that we want to delete. Then we're going to update our tasks like this. Otherwise, if the option is delete all you have to do is clear all the tasks by setting the tasks as an empty array. Then we're going to return this object. So after that, we're going to go to the delete dialog. So inside the delete dialog, also I did many changes. So here, make sure to add all of these elements from the use task store, and I'm going to show you how we can be able to use them to be able to create our logic. So here we're going to have the message. So because we are going to use the same dialog to be able to delete one task or all tasks, So the message is going to be updated depending on the task selected. So if the task selected is not null, meaning that we are gonna delete one task. So this is what we are going to update our message with. Otherwise, if it's not, meaning that we clicked on the clear all and we are gonna create or delete all the tasks and we are gonna update our message state with this message. And of course, this is gonna be relied upon the task selected state. And here, inside the function, delete function. So we're going to check the task selected if is not null. So if it is not null, we are going to call this function with the wait and also make sure to make the function as an async. And we're going to pass in the delete option, which is mandatory, or the task selected, which is optional. And we're going to return some messages by using toast. And else if the task selected is not null, meaning that we're going to delete all the tasks. All we have to do is to pass in the delete all option, and we are going to return these messages. And finally, we are going to reset the task selected and the open delete dialog. And here, the alert dialog, the open property, it's going to be dependent on the open dialog, delete dialog that is coming from the use tasks store. So if we go again back to the use task store, and if we go all the way at the top, so um, this is the so where is so this is the variable that I created for this, just to be able to link the open delete dialog and the set open delete dialog with the actual dialog that we want to delete. So this is what I'm doing. And the on open change, we're gonna call this function. So it's going to have the open as a parameter, open state. So if it is, so the open delete dialog is going to be dependent or updated dependent on the state that we're having in the open uh, variable. And so here, so you may be asking how we can be able to trigger this alert dialog. So this is why we created these two states. So if we go to the tasks option, inside the tasks option, so here in this function, if I added this if statement, so if the action is equal to delete, we are going to update the task selected with the single task that we want to delete, and we are going to set the open delete dialog to true so we can be able to open up the delete dialog. So that's why we put the open delete dialog in Zustand to be able to share the state and play with it. And finally, at the bottom, inside the alert dialog console, make sure to add these states to reset these two variables on the onClick event listener. This is basically, and finally, in the alert dialog trigger, make sure to add the disable just to make sure that uh, if the tasks are empty, we're gonna have it like this. So meaning that we can't be able to trigger the function to be able to clear all the tasks. So now we finished with the front end, and we're going to start working on the back end, and we're going to use Drizzle as an ORM to be able to interact with the postgreSQL so we can be able to do our CRUD operations inside the database to reflect them into the front end. And before we start working onto the database, so I did some of the last adjustments and refinements, and the things that I added, first the date and also this icon and the text message. We don't have any tasks instead of just showing an empty compartment. And also another thing that I added is the dark mode. So as you can see, when I click on this, we are going to have the application and the dark mode theme. And also another thing that I added is the loading state, waiting for the data to fetch. And let's start first by showing you how we can be able to calculate and get the actual function. So what we're going to do, we're going to start from the page.jsx, and from here, or from here, I'm going to go to the tasks header, and I'm going to go to the user profile. Um, so let's first talk about the function, and so let me go to the all tasks header instead, and we're going to create this function to be able to return the date in this format. And and also we're going to use the return here inside this p tag. So it's pretty simple. So after that, I'm going to show you first how to be able to install the theme. So it's very, very simple because we're using Shadcn. So just type in dark mode in Shadcn, and here they are providing the steps that you need to do. The first thing that you need to do to install this in your application. Next, create this theme provider and copy this. So it's something that I've already done, and I paste all the code in here. And after that, we need to wrap the theme provider inside the body. So here, let's go to the layout.jsx, and we're going to import the theme provider from the theme provider, that file that we created. And here I'm going to add it. We're gonna wrap it with the main tag, since we're using the toaster. And so yeah, so this is how we can be able to set the dark mode theme in Shadcn. So we're gonna go to the user profile. So let's go to the user profile, and here we need to install the switch component. So the switch component is the toggle. So that's the toggle that we need to install. So it's very simple. So go to here and type in switch. So let me do this again. So that's the switch that you are going to install. So just copy this and paste it in terminal and hit enter. So after installed this, so what we're going to do, we're going to create this open and this set open. So this states it's going to be linked to the actual drop down menu. And here we are going to call the theme and the set theme from the use theme, the package that we installed from Shadcn. And also we are going to create the checked and the set checked states. So here we are going to create this use effect hook. So the reason why we did so, when the components first mounted, meaning that when we open up our drop down, so we're going to check if the theme is equal to dark. So if it is true, we're going to set the checked as true. Otherwise, we're going to set the checked as false. And because the checked variable or state is linked to the switch, and also we're having the unchecked change, and we're going to call this function based on the value that we're having here. We're going to update the set checked. So whenever this updates, um, the theme, it's going to be updated as well. And also when we click on the actual um element here, so this is going to be executed, and we're going to see the theme as dark, and the checked proper value is going to be true, and vice versa. So this is how we can be able to create this. So it's pretty simple than I thought, because I've been doing all of this by myself, and also it's time saving. And another thing that I'm going to show you is how to be able to get this spinner. So I'm going to use for that the MUI library. So they have a lot of features and it's pretty rich. So the only problem with this with this library is the way how it is working under the hood because it's not using Tailwind CSS and it's very tough to really customize this. So here, the first thing that we should do, we need to install this package. So go to the installation page. So copy this and paste it in the terminal. So after that, we are going to look for the progress, the circular progress. And all you have to do is import this in the component that you want to work with. And for our case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the tasks area and I'm going to import the circular progress. And here, as you can see, I'm going to use the isLoad instead from the use task store. So if it is true, then we're going to render this and we're going to use the circular progress from MUI with the p tag, with the loading p tag. Otherwise, we're going to do this. So what that means is when the task that length is 0, we're going to render this div, um, which is this icon and this text. Otherwise, we're going to render our tasks. So this is basically how we can be able to add all of these things. So I think right now we are done with our front end and everything is working as expected. I think the last thing that I need to do is the search, which is something very easy to do. But overall, our application is completed. We're having all the features needed and everything is working fine. So now we can be able to go to the next step, setting up, creating our schema because we already have set up our database. So we can be able to interact and do the modifications needed in our functions to be able to interact with the database depending on the operation that the user wants. So the next thing that I added is the get and the post method to be able to fetch the data or the tasks from the database or to be able to add a new task. So here what I'm going to do, so I'm in the login page and the reason for that just to show you how things are working. So I'm going to connect with this email and I'm going to type in my password and I'm going to sign in. So here, as you can see, I'm having these tags that are related to this user that is logged in. So if I log out and I go to another or I log in with another email, so what I'm going to find like other another task that is related to this user that is logged in. So let me add also this task. So I hit save, and if I log out from this account, so let me log out from this account, and I'm gonna go to access to another account. So what I'm gonna find the um, the tasks that are related to this login or to this user that has been logged in. So let's go back to the VS Code, and what I'm going to show you here is first we need to create our API routes, and we're going to start by creating our get method, which is going to return a promise. And here we are going to use the query parameter and we're going to use the user ID. So this is how we can be able to access to it. So if the user ID is undefined, we're going to return this object to the client. And if everything goes well, we're going to access this part to be able to select the tasks that has their user ID is equal to the user ID inside the task table. So if everything goes well, we're gonna return this object telling that everything went well. Otherwise, we're gonna return this object. For the post method, we're gonna use the body, so we're gonna wait for it from the client, and then we're gonna deconstruct this body just to make sure that all the fields that we are passing or sending to the server are not missing. And if everything goes well, then we're going to insert the task into the database. So we're gonna return this to the client to work with. Otherwise, we're gonna return this object to the client as well, telling that something failed while answering the task. So now what I'm going to show you all the updates that I did inside the use tasks store. So I'm going to start first by updating some of the the structure of the fetch tasks. So here I added the user ID or null because we are going to pass inside of it the user ID to be able to extract the tasks that are related to the user ID. And here, if we go at the bottom, so I'm going to start by the fetch tasks method, then I'm gonna go to the add new task. So here what I did, I added the user into the parameter, and the first thing that we're gonna do, we're gonna check if the user is undefined. So if it is undefined, we're gonna return this object. And here, so I'm just adding this for debugging. And here we are going to hit our API with the user.id. And so we are waiting for the results from the server. So if things aren't well, we're going to return to this and to handle the error. Otherwise, we are going to update the tasks like this, and we're going to return this object telling that the tasks has been successfully fetched. So, and also at the top in the add new task, what I did, so instead of using the simulation of fetching the data. Now we're going to hit our API like this with the post method, and we're going to send via the body the task, but we need to stringify it before we send it to the server. And we're waiting for the server to get a response back. And if the results that success is false, we're going to throw an error. Otherwise, we are going to update our to update the tasks. So this is basically how we can be able to do this. And also one last thing inside the um, so when we want to create a new task, one thing that I forgot is the user ID inside the new task. And also to make sure that is working just for type safety, make sure to add the user ID into the task type because this is what we're using to be able to ensure that all the type is correct. So now we need to work on the put method and the delete method so we can be able to update the task or delete the task. So now we can be able to modify or delete the task. So I'm going to start with the modification. So we're having this task. So let's click on it and I'm going to delete this and I'm going to change the priority and the status and hit save. So the task has been updated successfully when I update our application. So as you can see, the actual elements that we updated persist, meaning that the saving into the database has been successfully. And also when uh, I modify the priority from here, as you can see, and if I reload the page, so the priority is going to persist as well because we're using the same function to be able to update the task into the database. And also we can be able to delete the task. So if I click on delete and hit delete, and let's reload the page again just to see that the deletion has been successful into the database. And also we can be able to clear all the tasks. And as you can see, the task has been cleared, all cleared. And if I reload the page, nothing is in here for this user. But if I go to another user, so let's connect with this user. So probably I was connected with this user where I did all the updates and the so so if we go back to the Drizzle and let's reload the page, so just see that if all the tasks has not been um, deleted. So I'm going to connect with this email. So meaning that this is what we this is the task that already exists for this user. So I'm going to log out and I'm going to connect with this email. So hopefully it's going to connect. Something bad happened. I don't know, probably because the password has not been matched. But as you can see, our operation is working well. So let's go back to the VS Code and I'm going to show you uh, the structure that I created for the endpoints. So it's pretty simple. So we're going to use the put method to be able to modify the task, and we're going to use the request from the client. Then we're going to deconstruct the body, and we're going to update our database or the task like this. So if something goes wrong, we're going to return this object. Otherwise, we're going to return the success. And here at the top inside the delete method. So we're going to pass in via the parameter the user ID, but also we're going to pass inside the body the option and the task. Because if we go back to the user task store, so here we're using the option and also the task. So because we want to put in one function a way to be able to delete the task or delete all the tasks without having to duplicate or to create another function. So we need to go with the structure as well into the backend. And this is what we're going to do. So we're going to pass inside the body two elements. We're going to pass inside of it the option and the task. So we're gonna see if the option, because it's mandatory, but the task is optional. So we're gonna make sure that if the option is is inside the body, otherwise we're gonna return from the top the error message. And if the option, so then we can be able to use this code safely, and we're going to check if the option is delete, meaning that the user wants to delete one task. So we're going to make sure that the task is undefined. Then we're going to access safely this block. So we're going to delete the task from the table by using this. If something goes wrong, we're going to return this error message. Otherwise, we're going to return the success message. And here for the delete all, if the user wants to delete all the tasks, so we're going to use this to be able to delete all the tasks that are referred to this user ID. And here as well, we're going to return the object depending on the results that we got. And finally, we're going to go back to the use task store. So here we're going to add the fetch method with the delete method, and in the route or the path, we're going to um, use the user ID. So and for the other elements, they are going to remain the same, uh, except this result. So the result that is coming from the server. So based on it, we are going to return the message to the function that we're going to use to be able to actually delete the task. And finally, we're going to go to delete dialog. So this is where we are calling the delete task function. But here, as you can see, I'm using the user here at the top and also here. And the user, we are getting it from the user task store. Sorry, the use user store. So this is where we're getting our user. And as you can see, everything is working smoothly. So we came to the end of this project. So as you can see, building a to-do list might seem a little bit simple, but adding all of these elements, it might seem complex. But if you understand all of these things and you learn how to be able to create like this this application and using the backend and using the creating the APIs and all of that, you can be able to create whatever projects that you want. So thank you again for watching this video and hopefully that you got some value from this project.